at the center. And happy 4th of July. I know this is for most people the 4th of July weekend, although it doesn't happen until actually Wednesday. So we're not actually going to be talking about the 4th, so that's it. That was it. That was me talking about the 4th of July. So I know you'll have your inspiration around freedom and independence over the week in some fabulous form or fashion. We're actually starting on a new book and a new conversation this week. And we're starting on a book that has knocked my socks off since I've been reading it since the beginning of the year. It's called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. And Brene Brown is a psychological researcher. And for 10 years or so, she's been researching shame, fear, and vulnerability. And out of that has come this amazing work that we are exploring about the gifts of imperfection. And I really want to invite you, how many of you are familiar with TED Talks? Are you familiar with TED Talks online? Okay. If you're not, I highly recommend them, TED, TED Talks. And they, wonderful 15 to 20 minute presentations by leading thinkers in psychology, science, leadership, spirituality, but really amazing people, and not like your usual suspects, not like the Deepak Chopras and the Marianne Williamson, but people who are really doing some amazing work in their own particular fields. And so I'm actually going to ask Veronica to post the one that really speaks about this work. She's got an 18-minute presentation on the TED Talks. If you look her up, Brene Brown, on TED Talks, you'll find it. And we'll post it on our Facebook page because it's a wonderful overview, in addition to what we're going to talk about today, to kind of get into the work that we're going to be doing. And she has some amazing, amazing insights for us. So that's what we're up to today. We're going to be exploring this book for the month and weaving it into our spirituality and our deeper spiritual practice and our greater revelation of the truth of who we are. So I simply invite you to open your hearts and minds to whatever is here for you this morning, to allow yourself to be present with the divine, and let's begin there.
So I invite you to go within. And take a deep breath with me as we inhale the absolute knowingness of the wholeness and the perfection that is love made manifest. Exhaling out into the world the joy, the light, the wonder that is God expressing in such magnificent ways as you, as me, as all of life. God lives through me. God lives through you. God lives through every aspect of incarnations. I stand here in the presence of God. Through every smile and every hello becomes a prayer flag of love that goes out into the world, remembering the truth of our beingness. That in the gifts of imperfection, we indeed are spirit made manifest, playing in this world of our humanity. But it is always and only God. I'm reminded every single day, immersed in the laughter of children with their fabulous capes on this week, standing in the presence of watching friends in the back saying hello, with their eyes illuminated like 10,000 suns in the recognition of the God presence that is their lives. So we come together to celebrate this truth. We come together to remember who we are, to live out loud, to live our joy, to dance our love, to remember that to be in the wholeness, our heart must remain wide open. For that, my friends, is the kingdom of heaven within. So we breathe into the space, we breathe into this place, and the joyful celebration that we've come together in community to raise the roof with the message and the music and the vibration of the highest love, the deepest truth, the most expansive joy, the harmony and peace that is God made manifest right here, right now. And we live, we move, we breathe in the sacred holy yes that all of life is God living as us, through us. So in joyful celebration, we just take all of this in. The awareness of the indwelling presence that is God, that is all of life, and just smiling from that deepest place of love. So we call it beautiful, we call it so perfect, and I call it absolutely complete. And we affirm and accept this time as a joyful celebration of the one by saying, and so it is.
All right, and the last couple of things are thank yous. We've had a blast here during the week. Doreen Breathe Love and her team has been put on the Let's Create Youth Camp. And it's been a blast to have the kids here all week running around in their, well, I won't give it away. You'll get to see it in a minute. 20 kids participated in the camp, and because of your donations and support, 12 had partial or full scholarships. Not a single one of them couldn't come for monetary reasons. So thank you for making that happen. It's really enormously huge. We also want to thank the folks who helped out, who provided volunteer time and support: Carly Allen, Gary Floyd, Edward Henderson, Mark Myers, Jackie Murphy, Randy Musico, Bethany Stoltz, and Lainey, who did a beautiful job with the music and supported Doreen in this fabulous effort. So, yeah, I guess you're going to hear and see a little bit about that right now.
I'm going to hand the microphone over to Doreen, but we're going to invite the children up here who are prepared to sing the song. As Lady said, we had a blast, and our theme for the summer camp is love is my superpower. And they did so much work with regards to love, sending it, and receiving it, and using it for healing and protection, as well as having fun with art and drama, and of course with music. And so we're going to be singing the song that Lainey and I have written, which is called Love is My Superpower. And I want to make sure that we can see everybody's wonderful happy faces. Yes. Does this microphone go to somebody? Okay, scoot over a little bit, Michael. There we go. All right. Here we go. Love is my superpower.
love makes you wise. I learned to look at you through different eyes.
Shower. I give it to me so I can give it to you. I breathe love in everything I do.
The week we saw all these caged crusaders running around all week. It was great. All right. Oh, fabulous job. Thank you, Lainey. Thank you, Doreen. I found a thing on the Facebook one day, and I posted it a number of weeks ago on my Facebook page, and it was a bib, you know, like a little kid's bib. And on it said, hey, they put this on backwards. I'll wait for it. It would otherwise be a superpower cape, right? Okay, all right, I thought it was funny. All right. Sometimes I feel like I walk around with my cape on backwards. All right, so our kids are a lovely, joyous demonstration of what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be having an opportunity to think about that for in a little bit. And I want to start out with our topic, living wholeheartedly without shame and blame. This is the cornerstone, the kernel idea of this book that we're going to be spending the month working on. You can get it in the bookstore, and it's just, so we're going to be talking about wholehearted living without shame and blame. So as I shared at the beginning of the service, Brene Brown is a researcher, and she did 10 years worth of research on shame, fear, and vulnerability, and she wrote a beautiful book about it, and was giving talks and going places and teaching people about it, and really talking about, you know, how shame and fear hold us back, how we're afraid to feel vulnerable, and these kinds of things. And one day she was thinking about it, and she noticed in all of her research that what was really true is that everybody has these feelings. Everybody has feelings of shame and fear and feels vulnerable in their lives. But only about 60% of the people are actually held back by that. 40% of the people aren't held back by that. And she was actually stunned to discover this, given that she had been working with this material for almost 10 years. And she began to be really intrigued by this notion that there are people wandering around in the world who experience shame, who experience their own fear and vulnerability, but are not kept from love. They're not kept from the joy and light in their lives. And she began to really explore that, and she wondered about that, and so she wanted to explore that. So she was trying to think of, well, how do we describe these people? Now, Brene she's what's called an anecdotal researcher, a story researcher, so rather than doing charts and graphs and that kind of thing, what she did was collect thousands and thousands and thousands of stories from people. And then would cull through, you know, how did they talk about things, what language did they use, what did they really emphasize, what did they pull out. So she went back and began reading the interviews with these people, And the word that came to her was, well, they're all living wholeheartedly. They're living full out. They're wholly engaged in their own lives, and the shame and the fear that they feel, just like all of us, somehow it isn't holding them back. So she took a file folder and she wrote the term wholehearted on it, and she began to explore, well, what makes these people tick? People that are wholehearted. What makes them tick? And so she began to make a list of what people who live wholeheartedly do and what they don't do. She was actually appalled to discover that she, along with many of us, live on the don't side. Live on the what we don't want to be doing. So let me start out with her lists. She says, I realized that the patterns generally fell into one of two columns, and so for simplicity's sake, I first labeled these do and don't. The don't column was brimming with words like worthiness, rest, play, trust, faith, intuition, hope, authenticity, love, belonging, joy, gratitude, and creativity. What a yummy list. What a yummy list. And what a great words to imagine, you know, these are the ways in which we want to live. The don't column was dripping with words like perfection, numbing, certainty, exhaustion, self-sufficiency, being cool, fitting in, judgment, and scarcity. Not so yummy of a list, huh? She writes this, I thought I'd find that wholehearted people were just like me and doing all the same things I was doing. Working hard, following the rules, doing it until I got it right, always trying to know myself better, raising my kids exactly by the book, being perfect. After studying tough topics like shame for a decade, I truly believed that I deserved confirmation that I was living right. And what she discovered is that she was living on the don't side of the list. How many of us are living on the don't side of the list? Seeking to be perfect, seeking to do it right, wondering, well, what's the right answer? And we have so many messages in our lives that that's how we're supposed to do it. How many of us were allowed to make mistakes when we were kids? How many of us, you know, for me, I certainly grew up with, you know, semester after semester after semester of lots of A's, and then every once in a while there'd be a B on it. And, you know, we would discuss, right? The one B. Yeah. Over and over again. And it was, you know, nothing less than an A was actually acceptable. And we have so many messages and so many ways in which we strive to be perfect. Then we get into self-help. Now we not only, first we have all the things that the magazines tell us about how we're supposed to look and what we're supposed to buy and how we're supposed to dress, and then we get into self-help, and now we're supposed to speak a certain way and be a certain way and always, you know, ask questions in the right way and never antagonize anybody, and, you know, and pretty soon, I don't know about you, but it feels like we're sort of tied in knots trying to do it perfect. And then I have lots of people that I end up speaking with, and it's always like, well, what's the right thing to do here? Well, is it more spiritual to do this, or is it more spiritual to do that? What's the right thing to do? And we can become obsessed with this idea of being right, doing right, living right. Yeah, it all kind of falls under that label perfectionism, doesn't it? And we try to be perfect because we actually don't care for how we feel on the inside. We don't actually feel perfect, do we? A number of weeks ago, I woke up one morning and I was really, really grateful that I had a prayer partner call that morning. It was an early call, which was really good. And 9 o'clock, we called each other. I was like, okay, it's my turn. I got to go first. I woke up this morning. I feel 12. And it's not pretty. It's really not pretty. So I began to explore and share with my prayer partner how I was feeling really left out. I was feeling left out, and I was feeling like, they were all, those people over there, they were all having conversations, and they were leaving me out. And, those people were, I just didn't know they really, really liked me and really wanted to be my friend. And, well, I didn't know whether I wanted to be their friend either. Yeah, it was pretty 12, right? And I found myself sort of exploring what was that? Why was I so triggered? And what was I feeling about that? And yeah, well, 12 was exactly right. I realized that I was really feeling the feelings that I had basically all through my middle school and early high school years. I constantly felt left out. I never felt like I was part of the cool crowd. I always felt like I was sort of dancing around the edges. Well, yeah. The way that I interpreted all of that was there was something wrong with me. I wasn't cool enough, I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't smart enough. I knew I was smart enough. Actually, I was probably too smart. I wasn't hip enough, I wasn't something enough. And so, clearly, yeah, it was not good. And I learned to be ashamed of myself and of how I was in the world. And so I spent a lot of time trying to fit in. Yeah, and then I forgot about that, and I just spent a lot of time forgetting about it. That would be all the numbing things we do, the drugs and the alcohol and the sex and the shopping and the going in debt and the eating and all the sugar and all the things that we do to numb out the fact that we don't feel like we are who we wanted to be. And that's called shame. That's what I was feeling. I was feeling shame. I was feeling shame about my very being. Now, what's so amazing, of course, is that the reason that I was feeling so left out, was feeling like I wasn't a part of anything, was because from 6th to 10th grade, I moved to a different school every year. Every year I was at a different school. Well, no wonder I felt left out. No wonder I wasn't, really connecting and in with the in crowd, because I could just start to make friends, and the next year I'd be on to a new school and have to start all over again. Well, at 12, I didn't think about it that way. All I knew was that there was something wrong with me, or at least that's the decision I made. And that's what happens to us. We have these experiences somewhere along the line. We make a decision out of our child's mind, our teenage mind, and we feel shame. Sometimes that shame is so challenging, it's so uncomfortable, it's so heartbreaking to feel ashamed about ourselves that we can't bear it. And then what we do is we project it out on others. That's called blame. So I quickly went from, I'm wrong, nobody likes me, what's the matter with me, to, well, those girls, they just think they're so cool, but they're really not. And they're just, whatever. And now we move into that place of blaming them. Well, they're all stuck-up snobs. Anyway, I don't want to be their friend. Really? Right? 12. I'm instantly 12 again. And that's exactly how, that's exactly what we do at some point. When we can no longer bear the pain of our own feeling of shame, we then project it out. And we make it our parents or our family members or our friends or the teacher or the priest or God or whomever it is, the government, whatever, and we start blaming because our shame is too challenging. So what I noticed a few weeks ago was that as I was reflecting on this, is that a number of experiences had happened over the weeks and months prior to that, and I had allowed myself once again to be moved into that place of feeling left out. And I had, I really had this feeling of there was all these things going on with some groups of people that I wasn't being a part of. I was being left out, and it was really because there was something so terribly wrong with me. And we did our prayer work. It was, it was wonderful to have that conversation to illuminate how that was manifesting in my life, how, you know, I really don't actually want my 12-year-old to be running my life. It's not pretty, and there's a lot she doesn't get. So I thought maybe the adult should move back into the driver's seat, and the spiritually grounded and mature person should move back into the driver's seat. And what I discovered is that it's just so happened that over the last few weeks I've had an opportunity to be involved with some of these groups of people, some of these situations. And some of the people that I would have said had left me the most out all publicly spoke in some form or fashion about how impactful I've been in their life. So who was living the story? Not them. They weren't living the story. I was living the story. And you see, my shame wasn't real. My shame wasn't real as a 12-year-old. Your shame wasn't real as a 12-year-old or 5-year-old. There was nothing wrong with you at the time other than that you were 12 or 5 or trying to figure out life, and there was something going on that you were trying to figure out. And we begin to have this underlying belief that there's something wrong with us. Now, we do that as we're growing up, and then we try to be cool, and we try to figure it out, and we try to always look good, and we, you know, a friend of mine says, it doesn't matter how you feel as long as you look good. So you can just cover it all up with whatever it is, and if you're not covering it up with looking good, you're covering it up with the things that we do to numb ourselves out or avoid or those kinds of things. And so what we want to begin to understand is, and then we get into spirituality. Then we get into this kind of thinking, science, mind, new thought, spirituality. And now, what do we hear? Oh, you're perfect. You're perfect. You're perfect. Okay, when I'm 12, I'm not feeling so perfect. So now not only do I have to be perfect in the way I look, in the way I dress, in the way I talk, in the way I act, I have to now be perfect psychologically, emotionally, and I have to be perfect spiritually. Yeah, doesn't that feel like a burden sometimes? Holy mackerel! Okay, I do say that. I'm sorry. It's better than other things I might be able to be saying from up here itself. So we can really exacerbate this idea of perfection even with our spirituality, because now every time that I know that I'm perfect but I don't feel perfect, I feel shame, or I want to blame someone, or I feel like something's been triggered and I'm 3 or 5 or 12 or whatever it is. And now I have even more ammunition to show myself how not okay I am. Do you see? So wholehearted living really is about getting rid of this don't list, and one of the primary things on this don't list is perfection, this idea of perfection. And so we're going to take a look at that. One of the things that's true about me is that I don't ever give the same talk twice. Usually there's, you know, I always have to talk about what's newest and latest and greatest and hot on my plate. And I don't want you to be bored, and I don't want to be bored. So I'm constantly, you know, I don't ever do the same talk twice. I had a dear friend of mine, he's passed away now. He grew the Mile High Church to, I don't know, 2,500 people, 3,000 people. He had 3 years worth of talks. And you start over again. 3 years worth of talks. And then you start over again. I don't know how he did it. So this section of this talk is actually one of the few talks that I've given. I've given it more than once. And I will probably be giving this particular talk for the rest of my life. Because it deals with this notion that we have about perfection. What does that mean to be perfect? So, yeah, I love trees. I have just an amazing relationship with trees. I love to walk under them. I love to sit by them. When I was a kid, I would climb up in our cherry tree and I would read, and I would eat cherries off the cherry tree. And when I go into the woods, and usually the matriarch of the forest or the area usually speaks to me, and I'd love to sit in the embrace of trees. And they're such ancient and beautiful beings. They have so much to teach us. So when we look at trees, and take a look at you know, here we have this beautiful, perfect silhouette. This perfect tree. Gorgeous, you know, full and round. And, here we have maybe the perfect Christmas tree. I grew up with the blue spruce. I love the blue spruce. I think it's one of the most beautiful Christmas trees. And, you know, and if you're like me and you go looking for the perfect Christmas tree, it's got to be full all the way around. It can't have any holes. It can't have anything sticking out. It's got to work, right? And, yeah, so here we have some beautiful, perfect trees. And so, what's happening here? Oh. They don't look the same, do they? These trees don't look like that perfect Christmas tree. These are sequoias, or actually I think they're hemlocks in the Northwest. They're huge, 150-foot tall trees. They grow in a what's called the final climax forest. They live for hundreds of years, and you can notice that some of them don't have any limbs down below. Some of them do. The limbs come all the way down to the ground, like our perfect Christmas tree. Some of the limbs are kind of hanging. What happens when they grow up and the canopy shades each other, what happens is the lower limbs start to die and they drop off. And if you've ever walked through a forest, how many of you have seen that in the bottom of the trees, all these dead branches hanging around, and you know, they're only growing up at the top, or they're only growing in places where there's light. And so if you get a cluster of trees that grow together, you'll notice that on the inside of that cluster of trees, there's no branches growing, there's no needles or leaves, but on the outside, it might even look like it's one tree. Everything's growing out, but nothing is growing where it's dark. So when trees grow together, they don't look so good. They don't look anywhere near like that perfect tree. What about this one? Isn't that amazing? Wow. Like who thought to plant the tree on the rock? I mean, what were they thinking? And look at the roots. Look at how exposed the roots are. What did it use to? Where's the soil? What did it use to grow on? And then that wind swept. It doesn't look very straight and tall to me, does it? Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So here's another. Wind-swept trees. You can see where the prevailing wind is coming from, and they're all kind of cattywampus and yeah, they don't really look like that perfect Christmas tree, do they? They look different. Yeah, kind of interesting, aren't they? It's pretty beautiful, isn't it? Isn't that really extraordinary? That it lived like that and grew like that. And these, I mean, it's like, wow. So interesting, aren't they? They're so interesting to look at. And then we have trees that are old and dying, and they have whole sections that are dead, and they're just dead limbs. And do you know that that's where you see the large birds roosting? They roost on these old limbs, and if you want to see an eagle or a buzzard, a hawk, or beautiful birds of prey, they roost on the dead limbs. They don't roost in the live ones, and if they do, you can't see them. This is how we see them. These ibis, they always roost in what we would call a snag. They call it the bones of the forest. What's left after the trees die, but it hasn't yet fallen over. It's bleached by the sun, and it makes this beautiful silhouette against the sky, and there's a place for the birds to roost and be together. And old trees. Yeah, doesn't look like that first perfect tree, does it? Doesn't look like that first beautiful oak tree that was all round and full. It's kind of gnarled and half there. And yeah, so here's the question. If you look at all these trees that we've looked at, which one is perfect? Maybe we should ask the question a different way. Which one isn't perfect? Which which one is not a perfect tree? Which one is not expressing its treeness in some beautiful and remarkable way? And here's another thing to think about trees. You know that perfect Christmas tree, that perfect, beautiful oak tree? Do you know that it can only grow to that if it grows in isolation? It can only be a perfect tree if it grows with no other trees around it. Only in isolation can it grow like that. The moment that it starts rubbing up against other trees, there's other things going on, or there's this wind that's moving through, or there's rocks, all of a sudden, that perfect tree, well, quite frankly, I think it looks a lot more interesting. And there's this extraordinary beauty that's revealed. There's this extraordinary place where we think, wow, that's life expressing. That's life expressing as a tree in each one of those trees. How are you letting life express as you? Are you trying to be that perfect tree growing in isolation? Don't ever want to rock the boat. Don't ever get too close to anybody because they might start rubbing up against you, and then you might have to deal with your shame or your blame or your upset or your, whatever gets activated. Oh, it's just so much easier to just keep them all out there and try to look perfect on the outside. In the dictionary, if you go up and look perfection, if you look up perfection, there is a common definition that for most of us is what we think of when we think of perfect. And we think of something that is so complete that it's static. It's like reached some static thing. Do you actually know anything like that? Do you actually know any person, any event, any situation that's like that has reached some level of static, that it's never changing, it's never going to change again? Not so much. What's true about this life is it's always changing. It's always growing. It's always seeking to express itself through us in some way more. And actually, the very first definition of perfection, which is beginning to become less and less used, eventually, unfortunately, will probably fall out of the first place. The first definition of perfection is to be whole. To be wholly oneself. Something is perfect because it tests to be whole, wholly itself. These trees, each one of them, is wholly itself, wholly and fully and completely expressing its being. And I don't think the windswept tree thinks, oh God, why me? Why am I bent over like this? I think it's just being wholly itself. And how many of us have ever walked through a forest or a field and looked at a tree like that and said, ah, that is an imperfect tree. God, you should get rid of that tree. Why is there a snag in the middle of the forest? It's unsanitary and cluttering everything up. Get rid of it. And yet, how often do we say that about ourselves? Something not right about us. Something that has to be perfected in some way. I don't think it's about being perfect in that sense of somehow some standard or ideal that we have achieved. It's about being whole, wholly ourselves. And we know who we are. We're the divine made manifest. We're the incarnation of life itself, just like these trees. This is the incarnation of life seeking to express itself as you and me in some unique way with the set of circumstances that we grew up in. We might look like that tree down there. That might be our set of circumstances. And we might be just as equally beautiful in the way in which we have become whole, wholly ourselves. So when Brene Brown talks about wholehearted living, do you see, it's not about not seeing that the tree is windswept or that it's not, it's got some snags in it, part of it's died, but it's about knowing the truth of who we are. And it's about recognizing that when we feel shame and when we want to blame other people, this is a clue that we're not thinking clearly and that we're not remembering our wholeness. That's why she calls it the gifts of imperfection. You see, our imperfections, every time we wake up in the morning and we feel like we're so 12, we're being invited, we're inviting ourselves to notice, oh, here's a place where I don't feel whole. Here's a place where I've allowed some story to take over, and clearly the story wasn't true. Clearly I was making the bulk of it up in my mind, and the rest of it came from being hooked in my childhood. You see, that is the gift of imperfection. It reveals to us our false beliefs. It reveals to us the places where we feel shame, where we don't know the truth about ourselves. It reveals to us where our divine light is being hidden under a bushel basket. Wholehearted living. She says this. Let me get you the quote here. How much we know and understand ourselves is critically important, but there is something that is even more essential to living a wholehearted life. Loving ourselves. Loving ourselves. Seeing the wholeness of ourselves. Not being ashamed of the places where we think we're not doing it right, we don't fit in. Oh yes, we'll continue to grow and learn. We'll continue to seek to become more. But out of our fullness, out of the truth of our being, out of the joy of expressing, out of the desire to let our light shine. Not because there's something wrong with us. She goes on to say this, I now see how owning our story and loving ourselves through the process is the bravest thing we will ever do. I now see that cultivating a wholehearted life is not like trying to reach a destination. It's like walking toward a star in the sky. We never really arrive, but we certainly know that we're headed in the right direction. So, this month, we're going to explore the practices that invite us into wholehearted living. Explore the practices that allow us to release the shame and the blame, that allow us to move through our vulnerability so that we can truly love the being that we are, which is the spiritual wholeness that we are and the unique expression of God that we've shown up to be. Whether we're windswept, whether we're growing close to other people, whether we look perfect or not. So I'm going to invite our musicians back up here. I want to close this talk with this beautiful song that Lainey wrote. And when we live wholeheartedly, do you see, we're moving into that place where we're letting our light shine. And that's what it is to live wholeheartedly. here. And today I invite you to embrace the light. Embrace the light as the truth of who you are. Embrace the wholeness of your being. Let your light shine. And let us move into the world as wholehearted, wholly alive, wholly awake, wholly present to the truth of our being. And so it is. So it is.